Welcome back to the channel. This video will be a part of our practical Xerox Analyst training series. I'm glad to have you come along as we dive into setting up this device from factory defaults to making little tweaks and changes to set this device up the way the average office requests. Obviously, anything that you see changed can be left alone or set completely differently. These are just what we at Copier Nerds consider a default base configuration for an average office device. We will also go over what we call master clones. These are clone files, pre-configured with the base changes you see in this tutorial. So instead of spending time with every device and making all these changes, we can just put in a master clone and focus on setting up scanning, faxing, and any third-party integrations the customer wants. Let me start by saying hello. My name is Michael, and I've been working with copiers and Xerox equipment for over 15 years. Copier Nerds' focus is on helping copier dealers and resellers enhance their customers' experience with industry-leading support and expertise. We would like to thank our good friends at Business Impressions for sponsoring this video. Whether it's Xerox office copiers and printers, to cloud-based phone or fax solutions, Business Impressions has your office technology solutions covered. Head on over and check them out at businessimpressions.com. If you're a copier dealer, agent, or reseller, and you need help with customer support, check us out at copiernerds.com. The first thing we need to do is log into the device's web interface. To get to the device's web interface, we need to put the IP address into a web browser. You can get the device's IP from either the startup page, on the home screen, or in device settings. To find the IP from the device settings, open Device, choose About, then locate wired IP v4 address. On different software versions, the lighter color scheme could be very dark. The information is in the same location, it just has a darker look. Now, let's take that IP address and put it in our web browser. Once we have the device web interface up, we need to log in with the admin password. Traditionally, the password from the factory was set to 1111, so 4 ones. Today, with any AltaLink firmware, the default factory password is the device's serial number. The easiest way from here is to copy the serial number from the screen. Once we copy the serial number, we are going to choose Properties. The user ID for the administrator account is always admin. The first time you log in, it will require you to set your own password. Out of convenience, I'm using 1111 as my password. If you use 1111, remember to check the box that says, "Do not prompt to change admin password when set to factory default." If not, a pop-up will ask you to change your password every time you log in. Choose Apply. We need to log back in with the new password. Put in admin and whatever you set your password to. Okay, now that we're logged in, it's time to get some things changed. Go to Support. First thing we're going to do is enable the Remote Control Panel. Choose Remote Control Panel. Next, hit Edit. Then choose Enable. I'm going to leave this enabled for admins only, but you can change this however you wish. Next, hit Save. The next quick change we want to make is within Address Book. Choose Address Book. Then let's go over to Management. Here we are going to change user permission security to allow anyone to be able to pull up the device's web interface and be able to add or remove contacts from the address book without having to log in as an admin. After you hit Save, let's go back to Properties. On the left-hand side of the screen, go to General Setup. The first option we want to change is Entry Screen Defaults. Default Screen. When originals are detected, copy is the default. But is it the best choice? I would say no. You can change this to any options that are available, but we set this to none. In the past, everyone made copies, but for normal usage today, just as many people are scanning documents as those looking to make a copy. So why force the copy app to open every time you put paper on the document feeder? After you hit Apply, let's go to Date and Time. Date and time are incredibly important. If you're checking for auto updates, running an image over write, or job data removal, these are all time-sensitive tasks. I did a factory restore on this unit before shooting this video, and a few things didn't go 100% back to factory. Make sure date and time setup is set to automatic. For the time server, we use 2 IPv4 servers from the NIST time servers. I have included a link to the NIST website in the description if you want to use one of theirs as well. Let's scroll down and pick our time zone. I'm in Eastern Time, so I don't need to change it. If your device's internal clock is too far off from the current time, the device will require a reboot. Let's take a look at status LED and sounds. You can uncheck the options to turn off all LEDs and all sounds. I like a little sound, especially the fault. If there's a fault or alert, I like a little sound to let me know there's an issue. Sounds and lights are completely subjective, and you never know what someone wants the device to do, so always ask what sounds the customer wants. Let's jump to display device information. This allows you to display several options on the walk-up user interface on this device. 99% of the time, you will want to put the IPv4 address on the walk-up screen. It will make your life a ton easier if you can easily see what's the IP if you need to make changes on that device. Let's go to Energy Saver. As a base place to start, make sure the minutes are maxed out. In this case, the max is 120 minutes, so that's what we will make sure it's set to. There are other options, and we can go over them in a separate video. For this video, I just want you to know how to max out the minutes for the machine to stay awake. Make sure you hit apply after making any changes. After we have made these basic changes in general setup, let's go to connectivity. Under connectivity, choose setup. First option in profile, wired connection. Go over to the far right and hit edit. Choose edit for IP Internet Protocol. Let's hit show for each of the three options. For IPv4 by default, DHCP will be enabled. First thing most people will do is change this to static and give the device an IP address. Let's go down to IPv6 settings. Unless you need IPv6 enabled, go ahead and uncheck the box. Let's go down to DNS settings and find domain name. Domain name is incredibly important. Scan to email requires a device domain name. My router hands out a domain name, but not all do. As a quick and easy domain name that works every time, go ahead and type in workgroup.local. Let's choose OK to save. Let's find DNS servers. I'm a fan of typing the DNS servers in manually. It's not a requirement if the DHCP server is doing its job correctly, but manually just makes me feel more comfortable that it's set and won't change. Traditional DNS servers I use are the on-site router IP, Google's DNS, and OpenDNS servers, but you can use whichever you prefer. Once changed, choose OK to save. Let's go to additional DNS configuration. Uncheck the prefer IPv6 over IPv4 option. Hit OK, then let's choose apply. Hit OK to accept the changes. At this point, it will take a minute to update its settings, but give it a minute and put in the new IP you set. As long as it's in the same range or routed correctly, it should work. Because I am not changing IP addresses, the device will auto-refresh itself. Let's dive into apps and app settings. First thing I want to show you is how to enable and disable apps on the device's home screen. Let's go to enablement. You will quickly see two options for each application: availability and visibility. Available allows any user profile to use the application. Visible is the mechanism that allows an available app to be seen or unseen by the user. Apps that are not available will not be seen at all. To rearrange the order of the apps on the default home screen, go ahead and choose Order. Then we can click and hold, then drag the app to change its placement on the screen. I've gone ahead and made some apps unavailable, and will hit Apply to save my changes. You can set whatever apps the customer wants by default. Most customers do not want every app on the screen. Mostly they want the core apps they use, and no more than that. Let's go to printing and change some settings in general. First thing we are going to do is turn off the configuration report at boot up. Let's go down to Held Job Policy and choose Yes to allow print on alternate paper. This doesn't force a print job to a different paper tray, but if your job needs a special paper that the device doesn't have, you can select an alternative paper tray to print the job on. Banner sheets or job sheets are pages printed with the user's name as a separator page. Almost always, this is disabled for both the sheet as well as not allowing the driver to even send it. After you've made your changes, hit Save. For color devices, the fastest way to set copies to black and white is found in the Copy App settings. Here, we will change Auto Detect to black and white and scroll down to choose Apply. Let's jump into some basic email tweaks. Click on Setup. The first place we're going to go is General. Let's take a bit of the advertising out of email. In message body, we will leave the please open the attached document, but delete the rest. Within attachment options by default, I usually leave the file type in the email, but I remove the device name and location data. And we will blank out the signature, hit apply, and let's go up to defaults. You can change the subject if you'd like. It's basic enough. I usually leave it. The real changes I usually make in defaults is to up the scan resolution and turn on auto background suppression. Hit edit for advanced settings, then scroll down and check auto suppression, as well as change the resolution from 200 to 300 dpi. Go down and hit save. Let's go to workflow scanning. Choose default workflow. Hit edit for advanced settings. Very similarly to scan to email defaults, we will turn on auto background suppression and up the resolution. But this time, we will go to 600 dpi. Go down and hit save. Let's scroll down and find report options. We are looking to turn off the XST file that will be auto-generated by default when you scan to a shared folder. Uncheck the Save Job log box. Hit Save. Let's go to and select Remote Start, also known as Twain scanning. Let's go ahead and choose On and hit Apply. Moving on to Scan to Mailbox. Scan to Mailbox I don't think is used as much as Scan to Email, but there is a policy that I like to have enabled if someone does want to use them. Go to Scan Policies, and let's uncheck Require Password when creating folders, and Prompt for Password when scanning to a private folder. Then hit Save. Let's jump to Scan to USB and select General. In Modify Settings, we're going to enable Auto Background Suppression, as well as up the resolution to 600 dpi. Then scroll down and hit Save. Finally, we're going to pop into Security and set up Job Data Removal, or Image Overwrite Security. Image Overwrite has been traditionally known as the security option that clears out jobs after they have been scanned, copied, or printed. With the introduction to the Xerox AltaLink 8100 series and newer, the traditional spinning hard drives have been replaced with modern solid-state or flash-based drives. With this change, the name Image Overwrite has been changed to Job Data Removal, so you can think of them as the same thing, but the terminology has changed. This screen gives us an on-demand overwrite. Removal now gives you the option to run a standard or full removal. Standard takes about 20 minutes and does a good job. Full removal will additionally remove jobs held for reprint, fax jobs in queue, and jobs stored locally and scanned to folder, and will take about an hour. Selecting Scheduled is where we want to go. We are going to enable a scheduled job removal or image overwrite. First choose Enabled. Then we will choose how often. I find that it's best to schedule this daily. Remember when we set the time, it comes back to help us here. We will set the overwrite process to kick off at 4 in the morning. I have seen where the time was wrong, and customers would complain that the machine is offline at 4 in the afternoon, or any other random time, because the device's clock is wrong. So please make sure the Xerox's internal time is correct. We've set the device to do a removal at 4 in the morning, with an error-only report when completed, and running a standard 20-minute removal. Everything looks good to me. Hit Save to finish. This is the core of a basic Xerox setup. I want to thank you for hanging in this long. In the next section, I want to go over what a master clone is, why you would use one, and what does it all mean. In the description are links for Copier Nerd's master clone files. Each family of devices that we have master clones for are linked and will be updated as newer units are released. In the master clone folders are the clone files themselves, and documentation of what is changed from the factory defaults. Let's open up the documentation of the changes for the 8100 series. As you see, I have the firmware level this clone was made with, the month this clone and documentation was done, as well as a picture of the walk-up UI with the app order that the clone will set. These clones are generic and represent a baseline configuration that you too can use and change and make your own. I want to personally thank you for making it to the end. I know this information can get dry. I hope you take away from this a method to cut 15 to 20 minutes of time out of an installation. as well as a method to ensure every installation starts off from a very similar place, and not have analysts trying to remember all the base level settings, like job data removal, or remembering to set the domain, or date and time. Thank you again. And for any questions or for help supporting or managing your fleet, reach out to us at copiernerds.com.